Procreate 6, Procreate Mac. This is not link bait. This is an actual story here. This is a post from, it's been 7 days ago now. This was right after the last stream. It says, hey everyone, Procreate for desktop is by far our biggest community request. We've been watching the demand steadily increase over the years, but honestly, we were hesitant to enter the market. Large part of Procreate's success is dependent on fluid touch gestures. A desktop touch displays lag behind the iPad and Apple Pencil from a performance and accuracy point of view. I agree with you. I agree with the chat here because I'm seeing way more people ask for this on Android than I am on the Mac, but obviously it is still in high demand, I guess. People must be clamoring for a Mac version as well. Clamor, clamor, I clamor for a Mac version. I see you, I see you. The really important piece here is this one. Desktop touch displays lag behind the iPad and Apple Pencil from a performance and accuracy point of view. Also, the Procreate is really dependent on those touch gestures. If you think about the interface of most drawing apps, there's like a little icon that lets you zoom in and out, right? Undo, there's an icon. Redo, there's an icon. Rotate, there's like a mode that allows you to rotate. As soon as you get on the iPad, all of a sudden, all of that is handled by touch gestures. There's no icon as a color picker. You tap and hold on the canvas and the color picker pops up. 2 fingers to undo. You know, rotating is just pinching and zooming. All of that stuff has to be rethought when you move it from an iPad into like a Mac environment. And then you do get into this point, desktop touch display lag behind the iPad and Apple Pencil. If you've ever used like a drawing tablet, like the XP Pen tablet that I just reviewed a few days ago, you have seen this. Touch works so much better on Windows than it does on a Mac. Actually, it's not bad on a Mac. There's just some little quirks, like I use it in Photoshop all the time. If you use 2 fingers to kind of pan around your canvas or do that sort of thing, what you're going to see is that the tracking is off, and oftentimes it'll move too fast or too slow. It's just not quite as responsive when you get to the desktop, especially on Macs. Now, there are rumors that Apple is working on a touch screen based Mac, and I wonder how much of this plays in what Procreate is doing here. Do they know something about the future of hardware that we do not right now, or that we do not officially know right now? This line right here, but recently our perspective has changed. Why? Why has that changed? I wonder if you know something. Procreate is like a jewel in the crown of Apple. Whenever there's a WWDC or they roll out a new iPad, it's not uncommon to see Procreate as one of like the featured apps that Apple is talking about or showing off or displaying during some of their promotional things. So I'm not surprised if they got some early information about these new touchscreen Macs. It also makes me wonder if they know something about Apple Pencil support on new Macs that maybe we don't know. That is not something I've seen rumored, this idea that these touchscreen Macs will also support the Apple Pencil, but that would be kind of cool. It goes on to say in 2024, we started receiving an overwhelming amount of customer requests to see Procreate on the desktop. As creative software industry continues to buy into the AI hysteria, we're seeing so many of our competitors no longer listening to the artistic community. Who could they be talking about here? I have no idea. This is a mystery. Everybody listens to us. Since last year, we've been steadily working in the background of this project. I'm excited to share that we are now aggressively pushing to enter the desktop market with an affordable, high-performance Procreate product that's made for Mac artists. Now, we can't talk about Procreate Mac without talking about Procreate 6 because they're both being developed concurrently. Both projects share the same code base and are both powered by the next-gen Phoenix technology, the same tech powering Procreate Dreams. Now, this we've kind of known a little bit. Procreate Dreams, the engine behind it, is a new engine, and they've slowly been adding Procreate features to it. If you look at Procreate 1, it worked, or Procreate Dreams 1, it worked a little differently than Procreate, especially when you got into the brushes and that sort of thing. And some of the features that are in Procreate are not in Dreams, like quick shapes and things like that. And when we get to Procreate Dreams 2, we started to see more of those basic Procreate features start to be added. Procreate 6, this will be our most significant upgrade to Procreate ever, along with being powered by our Phoenix technology. Procreate 6 will come with some big upgrades like more layers, adjustment layers, blending modes on groups, iCloud file synchronization, that's a good one. Undo history saved in the files, and layers larger than the canvas. And again, looking at Procreate Dreams, some of these things already exist there. Layers that are larger than the canvas. In Procreate Dreams, which is an animation program, you might import a really large background image, right? And it allows you to like pan across that background image. In order for that to happen, those pixels can't disappear when you like move them off the canvas. In Procreate right now, how it works is if you use the selection tool and you drag something and a part of your image or your drawing is off the canvas, as soon as you like remove that selection and let go of it, like it clips those pixels that are off the canvas. So whatever is not on the canvas no longer exists in Procreate. Procreate Dreams changed that because it needed to change that to work for animation. And so again, this is just another example of them working on this for a long time in the background and slowly moving Procreate into this new engine. I mentioned iCloud file synchronization. I'm a big fan of this, exporting things from the iPad. For example, right now, Procreate files, you can only open them on the iPad. So whenever I want to save my work, I have to save it as a PSD because then it could be opened in anything, not just Photoshop, which is the native format, but you could open it in Clip Studio or Krita or any drawing app you want, including Procreate. Procreate can open Photoshop files too. It's kind of like the default layered like art file application out there, like it or hate it. Also, undo history is saved in the file. That's just a nice little quality of life thing right now. If you leave your canvas or close the app or it's closed for a while, when you open up Procreate, like all your undo history is gone. It just kind of clears it. It flushes the memory and that sort of thing. More layers is an interesting one. If you think about the iPad and the history of the iPad, some of the early iPads when Procreate first came out only had like 2 gigabytes of RAM on them. It was a huge limiting factor. What happens in a lot of painting programs, this actually still happens on Android from time to time, is that once you run out of RAM on a system level, the painting app just crashes. And so what Procreate did is they decided to put some artificial limitations around it to add stability to the program. And one of those limitations is based on how many pixels your canvas is, the size of the physical canvas. They gave you layers that would match it. So you could never exceed the amount of RAM that was available on the iPad. Thus, the app was more stable. It would not crash when you hit that limit. Now, nowadays, it's not such a big deal. Like the base iPad Pro, the base iPad Air now, as of the latest version, comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM on board. It's a lot, and that's really helpful for this sort of thing. It's worth mentioning this is far from a routine update. It's taking longer than we expected because transitioning to an entirely new underlying technology while preserving the same user experience is a significant change, and that's not a huge that makes sense. Goes on to say we can't release this without surprises, just starts with blah, blah, blah. They don't want to release half-assed software, so that's fine. Take your time. Developing both projects simultaneously means Procreate 6, Procreate Mac will not be released this year. While it may sound disappointing, these projects are most likely arriving in 2027. That's good. That's fine. That's not that far away. When I look at my comments, I see way more people asking for Procreate on Android than Procreate on Mac. From an interface standpoint, it makes sense to just pull it over to Android because like you're dealing with the same kind of touch interface. From a code base standpoint, I'm not sure. I'm a little out of my element here, but I would imagine that you're dealing with all Apple technologies, Apple programming languages. They're using Metal and all that fancy stuff that Apple provides for them. And all of a sudden you're going to, I don't know what Android is it like Java? You're just porting it all over. It's a lot harder, I'd imagine. It's definitely easier to maintain an iPad Mac code base than an Android iPad one. You probably need a whole different team to do a new version and maintain it, as well as ensure parity down the road. Yeah, you said it way better than I did. Procreate on the Mac is going to require a Mac user to buy a $700 pen display with touch support. That is a really, really good point. Trying to think of pen displays with touch support. They're not cheap. Wacom Move Ink 13? I think that's around $700. Touch is something that Huion, XP Pen, Wacom, they all kind of save touch for their higher end devices or more expensive devices. Lastly, we will be updating this thread over the next 12 months and we ask for your patience. You got it. I'm patient. Take your time. Ooh, there's comments on here. iCloud sync and undo history and save files would be amazing. Looking forward to both. I agree. It would be awesome if Procreate Mac had an option for schools to buy it as a cheaper non-subscription way and to get people hooked on Procreate earlier. My graphic design and entertainment arts class have both been angry at Adobe for a while. Yeah, me too. Does Procreate need an animation discount? How much does Procreate cost nowadays? Procreate is a one-time purchase at $12.99. That's like 3 days of Adobe Creative Cloud. I know schools don't have much money, but they should just bite the bullet. Thank you for your continued stance on AI. It's really heartening to know that the team still respects artists in that way. It's really meaningful and really appreciated. 1000%. Yeah, I agree. We got another update. This one's Procreate 5.5, which is just like a little intermediate upgrade. It says, whilst the Procreate and Mac 6 team are working on the next generation of Procreate, we still have some work in the pipeline for Procreate 5. In 2026, we have a team focused on community upvoted features. We've been trolling through these boards along with social media interactions to determine what are the most popular requested features for Procreate, apart from more layers and blending on groups, which will be addressed in Procreate 6. The two highest community feature requests are color fill with gap detection and lasso fill tool. I hadn't really thought about the lasso fill tool, but that actually makes a lot of sense. Color fill with gap detection, it kind of already has that, I suppose, with the color drop thing. Hold on, let me just keep reading. Both are now officially underway. Our current color drop algorithm will be ditched in favor of a completely new algorithm that will allow far more control over gaps and transparent pixels. Okay, in Procreate, I trust. Let them cook. In addition, we have some other new features in development: new lab color picker, eyedropper active layer, new UX for layer, bulk actions, reference window improvements, and a bunch of small fixes and improvements. So cool. Procreate for Mac sounds amazing. I just hope the team considers that to compete with software like CSP, they need to include a full range of features expected from professional drawing application. Right now, Procreate has a lot of buts that are understandable on iPad, but the same limitations will be more noticeable on a desktop version. Regardless, I'm excited to see where this goes. I think I disagree with this a little bit. If you just look at what people are using online, Procreate has become really, really popular in the art community precisely because it's simpler. Now, I still think there's a place for Clip Studio and Photoshop and like those programs that have a lot more features built in. Like that, totally a place for that. But I think there's also a place just for Procreate to be Procreate. Here's James. We're excited too. Are there some standout features you'd like and expect to see on a Mac? Definitely vector layers. That is a big one. That's something that CSP has. For me, the big ones are smart layers, like Photoshop basically is a file inside a file. Yeah. Vector layers, faux layers like CSP has, to modify lines without a loss, and layer effects for things like borders and tones. Yeah, I can see that. And of course, people are asking for a gradient tool, which is interesting. I've gotten used to not having a gradient tool and just using like a giant like airbrush to create gradients. It is interesting how many people are asking for vector layers though, and this person brings it up in the context of animation. And that does make a lot more sense. Changing something frame by frame instead of having to redraw it is actually a big deal. The other update we have is Procreate Dreams 2.1. Thank you everyone for posting feedback on what they want to see on the next Procreate Dreams. We're reading everything. After releasing Procreate Dreams 2, received a lot of positive feedback along with a ton of additional feature requests internally. The team hasn't stopped. The first few new features are ready to share. This is the new Liquid Flipbook prototype. Soon you'll be able to move the flipbook. Turn off the volume. Let's go ahead and play this, and oh, that's a pretty animation. I like that. And then they move around the flipbook. Oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I don't know if I'd use that, but I guess it's cool that it's there. Another new feature is background filters, along with being able to set any filter as an object. Lastly, the biggest community request we're working on is Quick Shape. Yay! And again, this goes back to what we were talking about before, where they're taking a lot of those core Procreate features that we're totally used to, like Quick Shape, and they're bringing them over to Procreate Dreams, because Procreate Dreams is the kernel of the engine that they're going to be using for Procreate 6 going forward. Totally makes sense. They go on to say there's a lot more planned for 2026, but this is a quick update of what's coming your way soon. Yeah, so that is Procreate 6. I like it. Thanks for watching the video. I've been doing a live stream every Wednesday at noon lately. It's a way to cover like the news that maybe doesn't fit in its own video. Kind of this news did, I guess. Noon my time every Wednesday. It's a fun time. Come and chat with us, and also check out bradsartschool.com for some of my courses like Learn to Draw in 60 Days, which is built for beginners. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I'll talk to you in a couple of days.